us Ha Dinh, who's actually an alumni with the MDS program. And she's currently a data analyst with Alumni. And she's going to share some advice and tips about project management, really in line in terms of getting you started on your capstone project. So please welcome Ha.
Hi everyone, you hear me clearly, right? Good, cool. So I'm very excited to be here today and talk about project management 101, or in other words, how to make your capstone project a happy experience. Just a little bit about myself. So as Angela just said, my name is Ha Dinh, and I'm currently working as a data analyst at Unbounce. I graduated from UBC Master of Data Science second cohort, so I was using there last year. This is actually the room where I took my last test last year, so a lot of memory with that. Yeah, my background is in marketing and data science, so that might explain a little bit about why I chose Destination British Columbia Capstone as my project last year. So my team helped them to develop an algorithm that can predict the conversion rate for their Facebook and Instagram advertisements. Fun fact, I always like to put fun fact, it's fun. I'm going to be a corgi mom in 23 days, so I'm very excited. So before I dive into the guidelines of project management, I just want to set out a picture about the challenges that you might face during your project. And here are what I learned from interviewing capstone groups in my cohort last year. First thing, not everyone was on the same page in terms of business knowledge or technical knowledge. So think about your business partner. They might be the one who understands the business context and know why they want to use data science to solve the problem. But they might not necessarily know the data science terminology. Or think about your teaching fellow or your teammates. They might not have sufficient knowledge about the business context that your partner wants to present with. And then here, like, you know, in groups projects around your life, there are people who overwork, underwork, and anyone in between. So, yeah. And these problems kind of surprised me a little bit because it turned out that some of the partners gradually grow this interest in the project, and they will not be as responsive as they were in the beginning of the project. Keep in mind that besides your project, there are other commitments they have to work with as well. So this might be the reason. And then last but not least is miscommunication that led to arguments or duplication of works in the team. So that's the 4 common problems. You might think, well, it's just 4 problems. Why do I care? Well, if these 4 problems happen to you every day, every week, it will be a pain. And it might affect your mental health as well, and I don't want that to happen to you. So that's why I'm here talking about the guidelines for project management. So keep in mind this is the best practices. However, each team, depending on your problem, will be different. And you can pick whatever apply to your team. And also, if you feel like anything I mentioned here, you already know, stop me anytime or ask questions during the talk. Every time we want to do a project, we need a project charter, which also means the proposal. First thing, we need to determine a sponsor. Well, it's straightforward. In my case, DBC is my sponsor. However, if DBC has a team of multiple people who you will deal with during the project, you need to know who you come to for which problem. For example, Eric is the guy who knows about R. Then I come to him to ask questions. How do I integrate my code into the system? Or Veronica, she is the VP of marketing. So she knows the strategy and she knows how that data science techniques can help them to grow in the future. Who is the key decision maker? Obviously, in my case, it's Veronica. She's the VP of marketing. But however, in some cases, if Eric is the one who will take the code and integrate into the system. Maybe Eric will be the one who make decisions. And also, you won't have no summer, but people will. Your project will be during summertime. So people might take vacation. And if they are on vacation, make sure to ask them who you will come with to get questions answered. Second thing, define the singular problem. If there are multiple problems that your partner wants to solve, just choose one to focus in. If you have more time, feel free to solve more, but just choose one to kind of focus on. And if you're not clear why they want to solve the problem, just ask to uncover the business context underlying it. And it will help you to actually move on to part number 3, defining the project goals. Well, for any businesses or organization, the final goal of them is to grow. And in order to grow, they need profit. And in order to get profit, there are either 2 ways. First, increasing the revenue, or second, decreasing the cost. So kind of tell them what is the expected business impacts your project is valuable for the business. Will help you to mitigate the risk of having your partner growing this interest in your project later on. Now that you have the goal set out, you can talk about the objectives. And this is the chance you will scope down the project, because you only have 2 months to work on this project, so you cannot do so much. And moving on to solution, you will talk about the final products you will present to them. And then this part, assumption, risk, and dependencies. So make sure to ask your partner if the language. For example, if you really like Python and the whole team of your partner use R, does it make sense to develop your code in Python? No, it doesn't. So budget. If your algorithm takes so long to run, would they be willing to spare with you some budget so you can throw everything into AWS? And then set out the dates, some of the key milestones, internal, external timelines. I remember last year we had a downtime for Slack for 1 day, and my team didn't really have a plan in play to kind of solve with that situation. So we waste like more than a morning just to, like, finally we decided, okay, let's meet in the coffee shop nearby and talk about things. Yeah, and then number 8, now that you have your proposal done, you will walk through with the stakeholders, with your teaching fellows, get all the questions answered from your side and from their side. Okay, so that's the end of proposal. Any questions so far? No, good. So once the proposal is done, it's now the time for planning. What's the difference between planning and proposal? So proposal is just like very high level thing of your project. Now's the time you can kind of separate them out into different tasks. First thing is to define a success. Well, it's kind of tricky in this way because success might be, okay, teaching fellow will grade your capstone. And if it's over 70%, you're okay with that. However, think about the current state, the baseline of the business before you give them the result. For example, in my case, before we give them the Shiny app to predict their advertisement conversion rate, it would take them around like a day to plan everything, get approval, and so on and so forth. But now with the Shiny app, they can kind of know which demographic they should target for high conversion rate for different areas. Then it's kind of like reducing that to around 2 hours, for example. I didn't test that, but I think we should all do that. And then you can evaluate the success criteria along the way or in the end of the project. Second, setting the milestones. So in the proposal, you have a very key high-level milestone, but now is you can define the outputs and phases of your project. And then breaking it down. So this part is a lot, so I dedicate a whole section for it later. We can talk about the tools for tracking communication, which I will mention in a minute, and then the plan and rhythm for communication. Talk to your stakeholders. What is the best way to communicate with them? If they don't use email, don't expect to get answers from your email. Yeah. Let's talk about the tools for tracking and communication. These are the tools that are free. Everyone loves free things. But at the same time, like we use a lot, even in Unbounce right now. So Slack, ongoing updates and discussions. I highly recommend you to just ask everything in your group channel, except for the case that it's very confidential or very private messages, because if you just post your question in the team channel, then everyone will have visibility into that. Everyone will be on the same page, and everyone can help you to answer the questions. Email. I will talk about email title that will help you to kind of get response more efficient later. And then Google Drive. Also GitHub project for project tracker, and GitHub Wiki for documentation. So we can take a look at the GitHub project example here. Actually here. So it's like an example of board. You have to-do lists in progress, so on and so forth, done as well. So you can create, like each ticket is like an issue, and you can assign the issues to different people, comments on that, and then if you want to make it a review, then just drag this to review. I cannot try it, but yeah, you have the idea. This is a prototype. In real life, it will be like this. Yeah, this is the board at Unbounce for data analyst positions. We have everything planned out in to-do, and then everyone will have visibility into the progress of the 2 weeks we plan out the work. Now let's talk about the email title. Well, if like one of the way to communicate with your stakeholder is email, in order to ensure that it will not lose like along the ocean of emails they receive from work or from personal life, then you need to be very specific. The title should suggest the content or actions they need to take. For example, like if you need approval for your project proposal, just state it out. Or action required. Is straightforward for them to kind of know that you need response right away. As promised, I will talk about breaking down to from milestone to different tasks. So any questions so far? Good. We can move on. Yeah, so you just think about the weekly task or achievement you want to get done, and you kind of plan out in the project board that I just showed you. You can also use Gantt chart or work breakdown structure for Agile. I will show the Gantt chart here. Yeah, these are some examples. I will actually send out a guideline, a very detailed one after this, that at Unbounce we kind of put together for training, and you can read more about details why you should use Gantt chart or not, and Agile board, so on and so forth. Yeah. Now that you have all the tasks, you will assign roles and tasks for each person. So why is it so important? Because issuing responsibility to team member gives them the sense of ownership of the project, and it will enhance the interest of everyone in the project and mitigate the risk of having slacker or lone wolf in your own team. So assigning the roles, because this is like a school project, so I think it can be rotated so that everyone can learn different things. Think about the project manager. This is the person who ensures tasks are done and team meet the goal. Meeting facilitator. This person will ensure that the feeling in the meeting is positive, and then everyone will understand what you want to deliver. Note taker, especially for those who missed the meeting, note taker is the very important person. And also the tester. If you develop a package, then these testers will develop test case for you to make sure everything's smooth. And assigning tasks. Be very specific, but keep in mind that you can be flexible about it later on. For example, a lone wolf, if he knows or she knows that she knows a lot and she wants to do a lot, but just tell her that, okay, here's your task, just finish it, and if you have more time, you feel free to take a look into other tasks, but keep in mind that your work will not override what the main person does. You can feel free to suggest how to improve it or mentor his or her, she or he, but like, yeah, your work will not override what the main person does. This will help you to avoid hard feelings later, which is also so important. And now talk about the assumptions and constraints. We already list out some main assumptions in the proposal, but here are some very detailed low-level assumptions. For example, I will get answers from partner whenever I need them. This is not true, especially if they are on vacation, or my teammate is willing to stay up late to make sure project meet deadline. Well, this might not be true. So yeah, just list out and have a plan to tackle with this problem, because nothing will go as planned in your project. And if it's like fire come to you, and if you have a plan out like this, you will have a fire hose to just fight back the fire. Yeah, and then the constraint, like business constraints, technical constraint. I remember that related to data last year, there was a group, and the business partner handed them the data set for supervised learning, but the labels are all incorrect. So they have to like get some time and correct the label, so that takes them a little bit of time. So that's the end of project planning. Any questions so far? Thoughts, comments? Okay. Let's talk about execution. So now you have everything planned out. Just like make sure you go to recurring meetings and then keep everyone accountable through a very detailed code of conduct or contributor guidelines. I didn't care that much in these two documentation last year, but it turned out that if you have to deal with lone wolf or slacker, these are very important. If you don't want anyone to merge in their branch to a master, then make sure that, well, here's the guidelines. I need you to get reviewers, and reviewer need to approve. One reviewer or two reviewers, that depends on the style of your work. And then upon completion, you can test the successful criteria, and then you can document what your code does, like what partner needs to know to use the deliverables that when your team's not there anymore to walk them through. And then retrospective. Well, my team and then many other teams didn't do this, but this is very, very important. You can set up a meeting with your team, teaching fellows, and then the business partner to just talk about what went well, what was tricky, ideas, lesson learned, and some flowers, like recognize people contribution. This is also important to prepare you for the data science interview later on. Because when they ask you to talk about your project, you already did the reflection, and so you have more points to talk about in your interview. Yeah, so that's all the best practices for project management. We can talk about what else that makes a successful project. This I learned from the insight of the interview I did with all the groups last year, and also learned through the project manager in my team. So communication is key. As you can see that there are so many things. Project management it all comes down to dealing with people. And so tip number one, understand the personality and working style of people and what they expect to get out of the project. For example, if it turned out that you have a very shy person in your team, he or she is very intelligent, but they are shy to share their ideas, schedule a one-on-one with them. Talk through it and see how you can motivate them to share the ideas, or what's the best way for them to contribute to the group. Tip number two, the more you meet with the partner, the better. So from my interview, I feel like those groups that work with the partner every single day turn out to be very super happy with their project. But this is a very luxury thing because not everyone get the chance to work with the partner every day in their office. So just make sure to ask them if that's a possibility. And if not, then you can schedule a regular meeting to check in with them. Tip number 3. Frequently work together in the same room. Because, for example, if you prefer to work from home and communicate through Slack, sometimes your message means one thing, but they think another thing. So it's kind of, if your face there, you can show your feeling, and it's kind of better to communicate with everyone there. Tip number 4, just be transparent with your feelings and your work. If you're assigned to task A, and you really hate to do it, please communicate with your teaching fellow or your team, because turn out if you really hate it, your work quality is not that great. So talk about it. Or if you feel like the comments or anything that your teammate is offensive to you, just feel free to be transparent, give constructive feedback, or talk to your teaching fellow about that. The earlier you solve this problem, the better for your project result. And then tip number 5, many teams do this. It's morning stand-ups to check in the progress and plan out the day. Training time. Like I said in the beginning, not everyone were on the same page in terms of business knowledge or technical knowledge. I know that one team particular set out a time for going to data camp and take a course together to make sure everyone understands the NLP package that they're using in the project. Or they spend time reading papers and discuss the content together. Or you can also schedule some sessions with the partner to learn more about business context, or with your teaching fellows to learn more about the data science techniques that you want to deep dive in. And then last but not least, just embrace the diversity, because not everyone is the same. So in terms of teams, if you feel like your teammate is not as good as you are in a particular area, offer to mentor them. Or if you are in the other side, you feel like I cannot contribute a lot to a particular area, then offer to take notes, offer to test out the package. Just be helpful to the team. And then in terms of teaching fellows, each person has their own strengths. I remember that last year we came to Mike for a lot of machine learning questions. My team and other teams personally came to Tiffany for workflow. And then Vincenzo was my teaching fellow. So we asked him a lot of questions about statistics. And he's really clear. Like, he knows how to explain that in a way that we can understand. Also partner. If you want to get job out of the capstone project, maybe, but your partner might not have the budget at the moment to have another position open for you. So ask them if they can connect you to their network, or if they can give you some career advices that will help you a lot as well. So far, that's the end of the guidelines. And I just want to make a quick acknowledgement for Unbounce, especially Leslie Tai, Lisa Ullman, Tracy Hutica, who make a very detailed guidelines that I will send out to you all after this. And then Claire Saw, my manager, to walk through the project, the talk presentations with me. And also my classmate from UBC second cohort, because they spend a lot of time interviewing and talking with me. So that's all. If you have any questions, let me know. Or later on in your project, if you have any question or any hard situations you want to deal with, just send me an email. And if I cannot answer the questions, I can forward it to the project manager at my company, who will have more experience in dealing with those scenarios.